China, Hong Kong. This was Asia's first big building project, back when big projects like the bird's nest were just ideas in China's head. Don't be fooled by the bamboo scaffolding. This small area has long been stronger than it looks. The HVC and Bank of China towers are famous buildings that have helped many engineers and builders get their start. The MTR, which runs through the city, is one of the best public transportation systems in the world. It's getting better. Hong Kong's transportation will change a lot thanks to the new multi-billion-dollar link between Shaitan and Central. The number of people who love it is so high that it would make the London Underground green with envy. But things haven't gone as planned. There was bad weather and a dangerous outbreak during the building process, but that seems like the easy part. Since I can remember, the building of this line caused one of the biggest construction scams. This event has shaken Hong Kong's construction industry to its core. What a great new railroad it is, and how did it almost go so badly wrong? First, let's talk about where this new train line is located so we can understand how important it is. The areas that make up Hong Kong are Hong Kong Island, Kowloon Peninsula, the New Territories, and a couple hundred islands with few people living on them. The issue is that Hong Kong Island is the main place for business in the area. How are people who live here to get to and from work every day when this is in the way? That being said, you could drive through one of the road tunnels, take one of the high-frequency MTR lines, or if you're really sad, ride the Star Ferry, which has been a Hong Kong icon since it opened in 1888. Easy, simple, and effective. The Hong Kong train has been the main way people get around in Hong Kong for a long time. Every day, more than 4 million people come to our store. That's about 7.7 million people for a city. The Shaitan to Central Link, a huge $10 billion train that would change how people get around Kowloon and the New Territories, and add a much-needed link to Hong Kong Island, was designed to keep up with demand. To make the new Tuanma line, Phase 1 would connect two current train lines. This would make the Unter's longest line longer and connect east to west across the New Territories. The East train line would be extended from Kowloon across Victoria Harbour in Phase 2, though. This would add a much-needed fourth train link to Hong Kong Island. To put it mildly, folks were pretty thrilled about it. Don't worry, we'll talk about that again later. For engineers, the Cross Harbour Addition was where most of the hard work on this project happened. To begin, how do you build a tunnel under one of the world's most famous harbors? To connect the rail line to Hung Hom, a stop already there on the north side of the crossing, a tunnel had to be built that was shallow enough so that trains wouldn't go slamming into the harbor like a roller coaster. The team chose a submerged tube tunnel over cutting through the rock. We are able to make sure we meet the train alignment to connect the Hung Hom station to the landing point on Hong Kong Island thanks to the immersed tunnel approach. To make it work, a trench is dug into the bottom of the ocean, and parts of the tube that have already been built are towed out to sea level. These parts of the tube were sunk, put together, and covered with earth that was dug out. Water is pumped out once the whole thing is waterproof, and presto, you have an underwater train. The 11 parts of the tunnel were built here, where there used to be a quarry. Both units were 23,000 tons heavy and were about 160 meters long, 9 meters tall, and 20 meters wide. When they were done, they flooded the quarry and moved the tubes to the north side of the island. While that was going on, a specially made rock spreader was making the bottom ready to make sure it would be stable enough to hold the tunnel's huge weight. We need a dirt bed before the submerged units can be put in their final place. An automatic system in this gravel spreader lets it not only put down the gravel, but also make sure it's the right width and level before the final units are put in place. Divers used to do dangerous work like checking the thickness of the rock bed by hand, but this machine took their place. Not only was all of this hard, but there was also a tropical storm going on at the same time. That would take about a week to hit the prefab unit from the Sheko casting site to Victoria Harbour. When it was being moved on one of the units, a storm came through very quickly. Luckily, the unit was able to moor it in a safe place called Junk Bay. A hydraulic jack was used to slide the pieces together after they were put in place. It was sealed off with a cover so that water couldn't get in, and the rest of the water was pumped out. These two machines, Athena and Gnu, were then sent to build the 2-kilometer tunnel that leads to the new East Rail Line exit at Admiralty Station. Of course, that's 2 kilometers through one of the world's most highly populated places. The tunnel had to squeeze through this, and then connect to a station that was so busy it was popular enough to be a joke. It had to do this without stopping service on any of the 3 other lines that were already running. There used to be 2 lines that went through Admiralty Station, the Tsuen Wan Line and the Island Line, After that, we had the South Island line open in 2016. We've been building the Shaitin Central Link platforms over the last few years as part of that work for the South Island Line project. And to do that, the current stacked tunnel along the island line needs to be pinned down for about 60 meters. There were 2 sets of posts in the ground below these platforms. The ground was dug up and supports were put in a series of alternate steps. 650,000 tons of rock were taken out and 5,000 tons of steel beams and supports were put in their place. What came out of it is this huge stop that connects East Rail to 3 other lines. So Hong Kong has won again. Hugs and compliments from everyone in the crowd. Not quite. A whistleblower incident happened in 2018 while Hung Hom Station was being built, which put a shadow over the whole thing. A worker on the site named Jason Poon started the whole thing when he told everyone that he thought a lot of dangerous safety rules were being broken. They said it was because of work they did on the station platform. Poon said that the steel bars or rebar that connected the structure of the platform to the station wall were not being put in correctly by the building workers. People weren't putting the rebar into couplers, which connect 2 sections. They were cutting it so it looked like the 2 sections were joined. Once the structure was filled with concrete to make the platform, it might not have been stable anymore and could have fallen down, causing terrible damage. As word of the accusation spread in July of that year, the Hong Kong government hired former Judge Michael Hartman to lead an investigation. What they found was pretty bad. One check in April 2019 found that 39 of the 191 steel bars that were dug out for the check were too short. It didn't end there. As they looked deeper, they found that the northern tunnel approach didn't have the right papers. They'd also found more cases of illegal work, like changes made to the design of the rebar structure at Hung Hom Station. The inquiry found that even though MTR did not give clear orders to cut costs, it was all their fault because the Hong Kong government signed off on the work. Jacob Kam, CEO of MTR Corporation, and Frank Chan, Secretary for Transport and Housing for Hong Kong, both openly apologized for the scandal. Chan promised an internal review to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. At that point in the Commission of Inquiry, MTR did a lot of its own review. We saw that when parts of the work weren't done according to the code and standards, we took the initiative to fix them. We did this to make sure there were no questions before the station opened. The judge said the station was fit for purpose and safe to open after repairs were made to make it stronger. As things stand, we value all of the fines and suggestions, and we've also taken those into account in order to move forward with our next set of projects. The story was shocking, but it doesn't seem to have made people less excited about the new train line. What you're seeing is right, yes. Hong Kong's young people are becoming more and more interested in trains thanks to the UNTR's steady growth. As the train network grows, it connects towns that are farther away from the city center, and happy new riders are only too happy to party.